Syphil is a gamer who just lost his max-level character during a huge war event he organized, but all of his friends had a lot of fun, so he has no regrets. His war was apparently so popular that he ended up receiving an offer from the dev team of the game, and since he's excited to see what they have in store for him, he clicks accept without a second thought. However, he probably should have read the terms and conditions because a moment later he finds himself in a strange room with tons of people staring at him. And to make matters worse, his family jewels were missing too. He realizes he has somehow been placed in the body of his character, Lufez, and the people seem absolutely terrified of him, so he attempts to politely ask them what's going on. However, as soon as Lufez's mouth opens, an immense pressure fills the room, and everyone inside is pushed face down to the floor. Outwardly, Lufez is condescendingly asking the group if they normally taste the floor whenever they meet someone new, but inside, Syphil is just freaking out because he has no idea why all this is happening. Just then, he remembers that Lufez has an intimidation skill that's probably causing all of this, so he tries to calm down and turn it off, but it takes a few minutes for him to figure it out, so the people have been stuck to the ground for a while. Once things finally go back to normal, Lufez walks up to one of the elves in the room and asks him for an explanation, to which he promptly faints out of fear, but she eventually gets the answers she's looking for. Long story short, 200 years have passed since she was sealed away and the demon lord is still alive, so in order to defeat him, the kingdom attempted to summon another hero, which is how Lufez ended up here. This means Syphil really was sucked into the game and he's honestly really excited about it, but he realizes it must be terrifying to be in his presence while he possesses Lufez's body, so he should probably leave soon before he gives someone a heart attack. Just then, Lufez speaks up, and she tells everyone that she understands their concern regarding her presence since she kind of nearly took over the world at one point, but she assures them that her conquering days are over, so they don't have to worry. Although, she also has no interest in becoming their new hero, so she says they can just forget about her and summon another one or something because she's not sticking around. The king asks her where she plans to go, so Lufez tells him that she's just going to spend some time appreciating this world for what it is, but she'd be willing to come back if the need arises. Lufez then takes off and Syphil somehow completely understands how Lufez's wings function, so he is able to use them without much issue. Lufez was Syphil's main when X-Gate originally launched, and thanks to the game's novel system, actions taken by gamers were officially added in as lore, so with all the time and money Syphil spent getting Lufez to the top of the leaderboards, she is generally recognized as one of the most terrifying characters in this world. He could have stayed at the top of the leaderboards forever if he wanted, but that would have been way too boring, so instead he made a deal with all the game's top players at the time and had everyone split into the light and dark factions so they could have an all-out war. The war in question resulted in Lufez being sealed away in a subspace after her defeat, and while it was a lot of fun for Syphil, for this world it was reality, so Lufez is almost universally feared here for what she did. Mind you, the entire time Syphil and his friends were enacting their little war, they completely ignored the game's main objective of slaying the demon lord, so Orm is still alive and has been that way since Lufez was sealed, but that's not anywhere near the top of her priority list, so she'll deal with it later. Right now, she just wants to experience the game world that has now become a reality. Lufez's first stop is her old Malfil base of operations, and it is truly an impressive sight. Granted, it's a little rough around the edges after 200 years of collecting dust, but it's still amazing to see it in person. Lufez takes a seat on the throne and Syphil starts thinking about all the good times he's had with his friends in this place. He recalls how they have fun chatting about a bunch of nonsense all the time, but that he realizes that those discussions were all in a group chat, so why does he remember it as though he were there in person? Just then, Lufez notices someone approaching, which puts her on edge since the base should be empty, but when she takes a look, it turns out to be a blue-haired girl named Dinah. She is really excited to see Lufez since she has been waiting 2 centuries for her return, but Lufez has no idea who this chick is. Dinah is incredibly hurt to realize that Lufez forgot about her even though she was her most loyal advisor, but Lufez doesn't remember ever having a use for an advisor in the first place. However, now that he thinks about it, Syphil recalls that when he was building this base, he thought it would be cool to have an NPC in the background to make the place feel more alive, so he placed Dinah and just kind of left her there. She must have gained consciousness when this world became reality, and Syphil feels kind of bad since she was stuck here by herself for 200 years, so Lufez plays along and says there's no way she forget about Dinah. She thanks Dinah for protecting the base while she was gone, and Dinah is incredibly grateful to hear such kind words from Lufez. But putting that aside, with all the time that has passed, Lufez is out of the loop on the current state of the world, so she asks Dinah for a quick history lesson to catch up with modern affairs. Dinah says she'd be more than happy to explain everything she knows. So she tells Lufus that after she was defeated, the 7 heroes went on to found their own separate nations. 4 of them have already died due to natural causes in the past 200 years, but the 3 with longer lifespans are still around. Lufus can't help but wonder whether the heroes in this world are really still his friends or if they became NPCs, so he plans to pay them a visit sooner or later. Next, Dina explains that the Demon King, Orm, is still alive, and that's mainly because the 7 heroes failed to defeat him after they sealed Lufus away. In other news, Dina says that Lufus's 12 heavenly stars are still around as well, though most have gone their separate ways. The 12 stars are a group of rare and powerful monster NPCs that Sephiel collected because he thought it would be cool to have a small army of elite generals serve under him. Lufus asks Dina if there are any updates on the 12 stars, and she says she knows the location of 6 of them, but 2 of those 6 seem to have joined the demon army in an attempt to get back at the heroes who sealed Lufus away. Lufus is a little disappointed to hear that some of her minions joined the demon army over her defeat since the beef was never that deep, so she's going to have to chew them out once she finds those 2. With that aside, she's glad that she at least has something to do now. Her initial plan was to just go around exploring the world for fun and find out whether the 3 remaining heroes are players like her or not. But first she needs to go round up the 12 heavenly stars because she'd be responsible if any of them went around causing trouble for no reason. She asks Dana to give her the location of the first heavenly star, so she pulls up a map and points to a place called Svel. This is where one of the heroes has been living for the past few years, and the heavenly star, Eris, has been trying to invade it for months now. Now that she knows where to find Eris, she immediately starts heading out to find him, but Dina yells for her to come back because she can't just leave without making preparations. First of all, Lufus has no money on her, and Dina would have been willing to give her some. Inflation's a pain, and she's been waiting so long that all the money she had is practically worthless now. Lufus says she can just earn some more money along the way, but Dina tells her no one is going to want to do business with the legendary conqueror. Lufus argues that there's no way anyone would recognize her face after 200 years, but she is reminded that races like elves exist, and a bunch of them are bound to know who she is, especially since the kingdom has probably issued a public warning of her arrival. However, if Lufus wants to earn money, then Dina knows of a job she can do that doesn't require a background check: adventuring. To get started, Dina leaves Lufus to the trade city of Ydalir, but she would draw too much attention with her dark wings exposed, so Lufus sticks them in her oversized cloak as a disguise. She hates how uncomfortable it is to walk around like this, but they don't really have much of a choice in this situation, so she'll just have to deal with it for now. Once they arrive at the Adventurers Guild, Lufus mentions that it feels nostalgic to be back in the den of misfits and degenerates since, according to her lore, she was an adventurer before she founded her dark nation. However, she soon realizes how weird it is that she feels a sense of nostalgia from this when it is technically her first time setting foot in the guild. Dina notices that Lufus seems lost in thought, so she asks her if something is wrong, but she just brushes it off and says they should go take a look at the job board. While they are searching the job board, Dina spots a job that pays 3,000 coins, and all they need to do is find a bunch of lost cats. Lufus agrees that it seems like a really good deal, but it'd take ages for them to actually find the cats, and she'd rather not spend a week on a side quest, so they keep looking. Just then, they find a nice hunting job that'll pay them 1,500 coins, and all they need to do is hunt a few orcs, so Lufus thinks it's perfect. Orcs have a 3% chance of dropping their meat upon death, and if you eat their meat, then your max health gets a boost, so she's going to do a little HP farming while they're out there. Later that day, the two arrive at the village where the request was made, and they speak to the village chief, a tired old man who just wants to end things once and for all. He explains that the orcs have been ravaging their village for a long time now, kidnapping their women, killing their men, and destroying everything they've built. He begs the two to get rid of them for the sake of this village, and Dina cheerfully assures him that he doesn't have to worry because Lufus will wipe those orcs out without a doubt, and he is really grateful for their help. With that said, they head out into the forest to track down the orc den, and before long they manage to find it with 2 orcs posted out front as lookouts, so Lufus starts getting ready to attack. Come to think of it, she hasn't actually checked her stat screen since she got here, so she pulls it up, and fortunately, she still has all her max level abilities, so killing the orcs shouldn't be difficult. But she's not sure if she's mentally prepared for it, since killing these things on screen is completely different from killing them in real life. She activates one of her abilities and creates a dozen swords at her side before launching them straight at the orcs, and the resulting mess is absolutely disgusting, but for some reason, Lufus feels oddly calm about it. Moments later, the orc nest is alerted to the presence of an intruder, so they all rush out and surround Lufus within a few moments. They also have a really big orc as their leader, so any normal adventurer would be in trouble, but when they begin their attack to Lufus, They are all so slow that they look like they are barely moving. The difference is so great that she realizes that she probably won't even need to create any more swords to handle them, so she takes off and starts chopping the heads off the orcs at top speed. She's so fast that the orc leader has no idea what's going on. All he sees is the heads of his men flying off their bodies. She then stops and looks at the big guy just to say, "Hey, I just wiped out your entire squad. What are you gonna do about it?" It goes on a rampage trying to smash her into the ground. But it's way out of its league because Lufus is practically a walking calamity and he is just an obstacle in her way. No joke, all she did to the Orc King was slowly fist bump his head, and a second later, a gaping hole was punched through its head. So she's just way too strong. This was the end of episode 1. Subscribe to not miss the next part.